shot clock. Offense, number 29 and number 82. The penalties decline. Ball goes over on downs. Timeout.
That's Petit at Malapei. So a great goal line stand by the University of Texas. Late in the second quarter, we've got a one-point game in Austin.
First man to walk on.
Hello, class. How are you? I am an intern at Valley Toyota Dealers, which means I've got a lot of responsibility, you know? We got a question already.
Aren't you a little old to be an intern?
Distinguished, I think is the word.
Thank you, intern Pat.
Now let's hear from Jessica's mom, a neurosurgeon.
Always at the top of their class. Get 0% 60-month financing on many new 2018 Toyotas, including Highlander, Sienna, Tundra, and more. Toyota, let's go places.
The Fitzmaurice Hand Institute in Scottsdale is pleased to announce the opening of their brand new urgent care center, the only urgent care in Arizona specializing in hand injury. Most cases can be treated immediately, including fractures, nerve injuries, sprains, tendon injuries, and other forms of hand trauma. Patients are evaluated by a specialist, and all cases are reviewed by a board-certified hand surgeon. Save time and money by coming in for an exam and x-ray for just $75. Visit Urgent Hand.
Good evening, Lopes fans. My name is Seth Askelson alongside Jesse Vineyard. We're back here at Oceanside Ice Arena in Tempe, Arizona. Jesse, game 2 of this series between GCU Division II and ASU Division I. And last night, definitely not the result the Lopes were looking for, but it was a very hard-fought effort in the third period, coming in down 3-0. Scored 2 goals pretty quickly about the first 11 and a half minutes of that third period and just couldn't find that equalizer.
Yeah, they certainly made the game interesting, and you heard Danny Roy talk about it after last night's game where they had the fight, and that's what he wanted to see from them. And that's what they got in the third period. As you said, down 3-0 going into the third period. Usually when that happens, it's kind of a dire situation. Teams start to get desperate, but GCU remained patient. They continued to play physical, but they continued to play clean as well. And that was a big factor in that game because a lot of trips to the penalty box last night kind of forced GCU's hand in a lot of situations. But in that third period, they were able to keep it clean, get a couple of goals, had some late chances, but unfortunately just couldn't get that third goal.
Yeah, and for GCU, really kind of the story of that game was the way they were able to stay out of the box. And even when they were going to the box, it was matching penalties and not really putting themselves in those shorthanded situations. We heard Coach Roy talk about it on the post-game show last night where he had said that his team started to kind of fall into that undisciplined stuff maybe in that second period. And really that's not necessarily pulled away, but that's when ASU built that 3-0 lead and that they ultimately hung on to 3-2. So for GCU, how, again, when we addressed this last night, how do you play physical, stand up for yourself, make sure you're not going to get pushed around without kind of falling into the antics that ASU was trying to pull last night?
Yeah, well, it's a lot of those extracurricular activities. Last night you were talking with Trey Green during one of the intermission reports, and he was talking about how GCU just got into a lot of those extracurricular activities. There was a lot of those second and third guys into those scrums that the referees really started to call. A lot of those were stick penalties as well, just unnecessary penalties that no team really needs to take. And ASU a little bit undisciplined themselves yesterday, but GCU got caught up in that. They can't let ASU really get under their skin in this one, or else it's probably going to be the same result as last night. But if they're able to just keep it clean, keep it disciplined, GCU can come away with a big upset.
Yeah, and I think it's in terms of not necessarily the undisciplined stuff, but just trying to draw penalties. I think it's really both sides, right? Throughout the game, you saw that both teams kind of in each other's faces after the whistle, some extra words, some extra pulls on the jerseys and pushes to the helmets. And GCU, for the most part, were the ones drawing those penalties. And for GCU, definitely a frustrating night last night. Didn't play amazingly well in those first 2 periods, obviously down 3-0. And then they were able to find their groove, get it within 1, and not able to win. So that only has to add to the frustration. But how do you come out? And obviously you've had about 24 hours to think about it and kind of let it cool off. But at the same time, you want to come out. You don't really want to start the season 0-2, even though this doesn't affect Division II rankings at all. It sucks to start 0-2, especially when you were so close last night.
Yeah, I mean, like Coach Danny was saying last night, minus that second period, it was a 2-1 game for GCU. So the thing with GCU, we saw this kind of last year too, where the consistency factor from game to game and even from period to period wasn't always there for the Lopes. And if last night was any indication, these Lopes kind of learned their lesson, so that they have to play consistent against a big physical team like ASU. If they're able to do that, again, there's another big upset on the horizon for the Lopes.
Yeah, and for GCU, they are no stranger to the Division I upset. They went down to Tucson last year and picked up a victory over the University of Arizona. And obviously, like I mentioned before, it doesn't affect the Division II rankings, and that doesn't even affect the Division I rankings, but that's just a big confidence boost when you get to go on the road. A team like U of A, who is known to be a really strong program down there in Tucson, what kind of confidence do you think this GCU team will get if they're able to find a way to pick up a win tonight?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, the most simple thing is that it's Arizona State. This is your in-town rival, just basically right down the highway from GCU. And like I was talking about last night, GCU wants to prove to ASU, U of A, and even NAU that they're not some second or third tier team in the state. And they want to be the #1 team in the state. Coach Danny Roy, he's talked about that a number of times. And if they're able to get another good performance against ASU, much less, especially if they get another big victory against ASU, that's just a huge confidence boost. There's a lot of optimism, a lot of enthusiasm around this team going into the season. And if they can pay that off with a big victory against ASU, that will just steamroll down the rest of the way for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and the way you hear Coach Roy talking about the team this year, the talent that he's been able to bring in, and kind of the team that he's been able to assemble, they could challenge for one of those top 2 spots in the West, where they don't have to go to regionals. They go straight to nationals, bypass that tournament that they were eliminated in last year in that second round. And so a win here would really boost their confidence. And not only that, you go the next weekend, next Saturday, that is the 22nd, you come back home, your first regular season game in your new arena. If you can beat U of A, start the year 2-1, I mean, the confidence will be through the roof.
Huge. And then right after that, they come back here to play ASU Division II, and then the weekend after that, they go up to Flagstaff to play NAU. So the tough schedule is not going to end, and it's only going to get harder from starting next week, because U of A, they were good last year, went to nationals. They're expected to be even better this year. So the challenges are just going to keep on coming and coming for the Lopes, but this is a good early season test for them to really understand where they truly are so far this year.
Yeah, and so for ASU, like you said, they're not really leaving the state of Arizona for the first month and a half. So it's real good on the travel. And I mean, I know it's a bus ride, but bus ride to Tucson or Flagstaff either way, only 2 hours. It's not like a 5-hour plane flight across the country. But definitely, I think a point to note: last year GCU, that when you're talking about the crosstown rivalry between both ASU schools, the Division I and the Division II, they were only 2-4. They split the season series with ASU D2, 0-2 against the Division I team. So I know the Lopes and Danny Roy definitely want to improve on that this year. So warm-ups have just ended here at Oceanside Ice Arena. My name is Seth Askelson alongside Jesse Vineyard here. We're going to take a break. Hopefully when we come back, we'll have defenseman Nick Meralda for you talking about tonight's matchup.
And it bit him. How about that turn of events? Should have been a safety. Talanoa Hufunga running into the punter. And he's a true freshman from Corvallis, Oregon. Tremendous talent. 5:24 to go in the second. Interesting turn of events. Longhorns will keep it.
Wins in program history.
Pac-12 after dark never disappoints.
Whoa, what a catch! Holy cow! Headed by Herring. 10 and the pass. Oh my goodness, it's caught! Arizona State with a huge special teams play. How did he catch that? One of the biggest wins in program history.
Pac-12 after dark never disappoints.
Hey, what do you guys want to listen to?
Oh, hip-hop.
Reggaeton.
EDM.
EDM.
What about bubble trance?
Bubble what?
Bubble trance. It's a thing.
Welcome back into the Grand Canyon University Ice Hockey Channel. My name is Seth Askelson, alongside here defenseman Nick Marold. And Nick, kind of tale of two games last night, right? The first two periods down 3-0. Had to be frustrating, but you're able to find those 2 goals in the third period and really make it a game for the final 8 minutes. What was the difference in that third period that kind of changed the game?
Well, I think once we got that first goal, the boys started to realize that, we could play with these guys, and we kind of gained momentum there. And once we found out, hey, we're in this game, boys, let's just keep moving forward. And we stepped on the gas a little bit, and then we just kind of took it from there. Just fell a little bit short.
How do you turn that effort into 60 minutes tonight?
Discipline. Got to stay disciplined. The boys know these guys like to take a lot of penalties, and we can't feed into that. I think we played disciplined hockey game tonight. We have a very good chance to put ourselves in the position to win.
You're without your captain, Brett Kramer, tonight. He's gone because of prior engagements he had, so he wasn't going to be able to make this game. How do you and the rest of the leaders in that locker room step up and take over not only the leadership, but just what he brings to the ice?
That's a huge blow, losing Brett. We're all thinking about him right now. We're all going to do what we can to win for him and all step up and play that leadership role.
Yeah, Joel, this is the
for you guys to come out on top tonight, you guys have to do what?
Honestly, my main focus, as I said before, is discipline and, just play, put the puck in the net, play our game.
All right, Nick, well, thank you. Do you have any final thoughts before you head back to the locker room?
Nope, we're going to come out. We're going to show them how we play tonight.
All right, Nick, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you. Lopes fans, stay tuned. We'll have a little bit more of the pregame show with myself and Jesse Vineyard when we come back on the Grand Canyon University Ice Hockey YouTube channel.
Trying to squeeze through the hole.
Thanks, Matt. Sorry to make you wait.
And just as a quick update, during the break, Clay Helton challenged that personal foul, roughing the punter, and thought that the ball may have been tipped. It was not. We had a clear angle of that. It was not tipped, so USC was charged at timeout. 2nd and 8. Ellinger sprints out. In trouble. Ellinger. And he's sacked at the 5-yard line. Porter Gustin, Christian Rector. And that's a loss of 15 yards. And Rector was unblocked on that backside because it was a designed rollout to the left. Watch him see unblocked. That ball is supposed to be out right now. So as soon as Ellinger has got to come back to his right, he's going to have an unblocked player in his face. And Gustin as well from that front side in the backfield. So 3rd down and 22 at the 6 for Texas. This is, you got to hand this ball off. The momentum is a little bit against you here. They'll throw it. Ellinger wants to run it, and he'll gain a yard, maybe 2. Gustin and Rector again. It's a good decision from Ellinger. So the last thing you want to do is put that ball into double coverage, throw it into a precarious spot down the field. And so Ellinger eats it. Put your punting unit on the field. They've gotten a couple of really big breaks here on this series, and now a chance to change the field position a little bit from what it was previous. Ryan Buchevsky about 6 yards deep in his own end zone. Tyler Vaughns is the deep man for SC. Buchevsky sends it away, and it's fair caught inside Texas territory. 41-yard punt. Let's go to Greg Wolf for a game break.
Gus, thanks. Back to Arlington. TCU trailed Ohio State 10-0 early. They've responded. Darius Anderson, he can squat 700 pounds. He can bench press double his weight, but scouts love his 4.39 40 speed. He goes 93 yards for the touchdown. TCU with the lead 14-13 at the half. Gus, Joel, back to you.
Well, around college football, here's what we've seen. 14 games were canceled because of Hurricane Florence. Oklahoma went up to Iowa State, won by 10. Kyler Murray, huge day. Wisconsin lost at home. Auburn lost at home. Gutty win there from LSU, kicked a field goal to win by 1 as time ran out. And Carr wrestled down well behind the line of scrimmage. That Texas defense playing a lot better. Chris Nelson as well as Jeffrey McCullough leading the way. Yeah, that defensive front has been tough to run against. They have not gotten much movement. Speaking of that USC offensive line, which is why the bulk of the game plan has falling onto the shoulder of JT Daniels like it will here in 2nd and long.
Loss of 6, 2nd and 16. Daniels looking deep again. Daniels incomplete. Caden Stearns there defensively for Texas, as Velus Jones was the intended receiver.
And if Devontae Davis isn't there, I think Stearns picks us off, or vice versa. Davis probably has an interception. Stearns had an interception as a true freshman last week. This guy is an unbelievable player. 5-star safety, true freshman, just a terrific young talent.
Coming out of high school, he was considered the #1 safety prospect in the nation. 3rd and 16. Daniels under pressure. Daniels goes down. Another sack for Texas. Boy, they brought the house. Gary Johnson getting home.
Watch Johnson. Here he is, and he's going to get into the backfield. Really, there's nowhere to go. He was unblocked, though. Kind of a mistake by the back. Malapei, he goes all the way up towards the inside, and you see how he had to kind of come back to his right, and that ball actually was out. Daniels did a nice job recovering it.
2-2-8. It's a 30-second timeout.
Gary Johnson, they've been waiting for this guy to show out. He's got immense talent. And Todd Orlando, the defensive coordinator, told us that this is the guy that they could lean on as a senior, as a leaner. He's 6 foot, 230 pounds. He can run. They clocked him on GPS at 22 miles an hour in a practice, and they've just been waiting for him to show out. Well, in that last snap, he sure showed out for the sack.
Tell you what, Coach Orlando has to be happy. He's got the best afro in all of college football coaching.
Hey, man, he was so happy when you told him that yesterday, too. He smiled all big, and he looked at you and he was like, hey, my wife said that to me, too. So good. What a great defensive coordinator he has been. Went with Tom Herman to Houston.
Welcome back to GCU's Ice Hockey YouTube channel. My name is Seth Askelson alongside Jesse Vineyard. And Jesse, about 8 minutes away from the start of Game 2 of this series. And for GCU, we talked about it a lot. The not necessarily inconsistency, but just the kind of lack of offense in the first period. Turning around, picked it up in the third period. What did they have to do to play to complete 60 minutes?
Well, last night they had a really quick, fast start. The only thing that kind of dampened that mood was just the frequent trips to the penalty box. Coach Danny was talking about how they were a really good 5-on-5 team last night. It's just unfortunately they didn't have a whole lot of 5-on-5 time because they were either 4-on-5 or just it wasn't what they really wanted last night as far as how well they played on 5-on-5. So if they can stick to that same game plan, it's just stay out of the undisciplined stuff and keep it a clean game, but constantly get these fast starts in, especially neutralize the speed of ASU as best they can. If they're able to do that, then it can come out a little bit of a different result than from last night.
Yeah, and I think we saw 5-on-5, not necessarily that they were the faster team or anything like that. It's just they were in really good position. They were making really good plays in all three ends of the ice, really. And I think for GCU, it's like you said, you got to stay out of the undisciplined stuff, and you want the power plays. I mean, I don't think Danny is necessarily complaining about the amount of power plays, but it's like you said, there's a lot of times they weren't 5-on-5, but the time they were 5-on-5, they were either at the level or even a little bit better than ASU. So I think that's definitely a big key, is staying 5-on-5 or at least 1-2 men above, and don't fall into anything crazy. I think one of the biggest stories that we talked to Coach Roy about last night was Brett Kramer. He's out of the lineup. He was scheduled to be out of the lineup anyways tonight, so that's not of a huge concern, but we did see him leave the ice last night after taking kind of it was hard, but it was also really awkward, kind of the way he got bumped, driving to the net with I mean, 15 seconds left as the GCU was trying to win the game. We don't have any injury update as of right now about Brett Kramer. Obviously, he's not at the rink because of the prior engagement, but we hope he's okay. Without your captain, the guy who, I wouldn't say has built this program, but he was the building block of this program. When I talked to Coach Roy last year, he talked about how he was the model guy, the model captain for this program. How big of a blow is that going to be for the Lopes tonight?
Well, I mean, like we were talking about last night, he is the captain and the leader of this team for a reason. He was one of the first guys who signed on to this program. Coach Danny, he's talked about that he was the program's first captain, and he will remain the captain throughout the rest of his time at GCU. And currently, he's got 2 years left, this being his junior year. So it's a big loss because he is not just a good player, a good defenseman on the ice, but he is a good bench guy. He really builds his team up. He's always in the huddle, constantly just trying to figure out different game plans for his teammates. He's constantly communicating on the ice. So it's a big loss for sure, and we don't know the full extent of how long he'll be out off the ice, but you know he's still going to be around this team, and you know he's still going to have a hand in everything that this team does in practice and in games.
Yeah, and it's like you said, since he's not at the rink today, we don't really know what the injury is, right? I mean, you don't really go around kind of asking medical questions, and so but he looked to be okay, right? I mean, Coach Roy said there was blood on the jersey, which is a little concerning, but at the same time, he did come off under his own power. The trainer Kelly Lawchaw didn't have to come off the bench to go help him out. He got up, he stayed down a little bit, but he got up, skated out. Obviously, looked at a little pain on the bench. So that's always concerning, but I think the good thing is he came off under his own power, and again, he wasn't scheduled to be in the game today, so I'm not too worried. Hopefully he's back by next Saturday against U of A. So yeah, it's going to be tough without him there, but GCU definitely has enough talent to make it work. So a couple minutes away, actually, we'll be on for another minute or so. So before we go, Jesse, key to the game for the Lopes tonight.
Well, another quick start. There's going to be some different names in the lineup tonight, and for those guys, it's really going to depend on those young guys, because like we saw last night, the young guys seem to get used to it pretty quickly, especially Zach Bennett and Declan Carter. Those were two big highlights for the young guys last night. If other guys like Andre Janovic can get in there, Callan Tomlin, Malik Lamont Stokes, if those guys can also have a quick start in this game to mesh with some of the other guys like Wyatt Grant, Luke Wilson, Matt Tweeten, if all those guys can have a quick start together instead of trying to figure things out as the game goes on, GCU can have a really good game, but it has to be consistent throughout all 3 periods. If they have one period off and ASU jumps on them in that period, it'll be ASU's game. So it has to be a quick start, and it has to be consistent all the way through.
Yeah, it's consistency and quick start. I think they have to score first to really make ASU feel the pressure. They made them feel the pressure last night when they started to bring it back, and unfortunately, they weren't able to complete that comeback, but you score first, you really put that pressure on ASU, kind of continuing that momentum from last night. And it's like you said, the lineup's a lot different, but the thing that isn't changing, that top line. It's Carter, it's Grant, it's Bennett. They were so good last night. We'll see if they can do it again. So thank you for joining us here on GCU Ice Hockey's YouTube channel. Seth Askelson alongside Jesse Vineyard. We'll be back for the first intermission. In the meantime, you can watch the game on ASU's ACHA D1 YouTube page. So once again, for Jesse Vineyard, I'm Seth Askelson. We'll see you after the first period.
Personal foul. Hands to the face. Defense number 45. 15-yard penalty in the previous spot.